Hey guys, Bartell's Bookshelf here with another book haul. Yes, I know, I'm sorry, it's been a while. Usual shit, slump, depression, you know how it is. I've read two books in in the recent months. I haven't even cracked double digits on my books read. I don't know why. It's just the capacity for reading just seems to have completely left me, but I'm still buying books cuz I have an addiction. And I enjoy as the prophets say, the best things in life are things. They fill the hole in my soul. So recently, Nakia and we went to this book den sale, which I've mentioned before. It's this big warehouse where the library sells their sort of overstock of books that they just can't get rid of. Sorry if you guys can hear bells and meowing and stuff. By the way, we're cat sitting. We have some new cats that are going to be going to a friend, so we're just letting them run around in here. So if you hear some noises and stuff, I apologize. So yeah, we went to the book den sale, and then recently we went to Half Price because they were having a big sale for Memorial Day, and everything was 20% off. So I got some stuff from there. So let's just get into it. Oh, and I also threw in a few books that were given to me or that were bought recently at like thrift stores and stuff, just to get everything in there. More books, more content, right? So that's how I see it. So I'll start with just the random books that I bought or at Goodwill or were given to me. This first one is from Goodwill. This is Cat in a Diamond Dazzle by Carol Nelson Douglas. This is a Midnight Louie mystery. Apparently, this is part of a series of cat mystery novels where this cat named Midnight Louie and his owner are solving, murder mysteries. I see a lot of these sort of like animal mystery books ever, especially these cat ones. I don't know how this whole trend got started, but these cat books are everywhere. And me and my friends have always joked about like, oh, maybe we should check them out just to see what they're like. But there's so many of them, and it's like they're not really our kind of thing. So it's like, where do you start? So, but I found this at a Goodwill, and I saw that cover there, that painted cover with the pretty guy with the romance novel, and I was like, "What the hell is this about?" And I looked on the back, and it's from Forge, which is an imprint of Tor. So that intrigued me. So I was like, "All right, what's this all about?" I read the back. It's about Temple Bar, his red-headed publicist owner, and Midnight Louie, the black cat, going to solve the murder of a male model at a romance convention. So that just sounded like really silly and light and fun, the kind of thing I could probably get into. And I read a little bit of the opening, and it's written in a very sort of arch, sardonic style. Especially there are chapters written in the perspective of the cat, Midnight Louie, and the perspective of the owner. And the chapters from the perspective of the cat are written in this very sort of like old-fashioned style, sort of very almost like Oscar Wildean, almost. So that sounds fun. So we'll see how that turns out. This was a book that Nakia bought for me when she went to a store in Lincoln. This is a Sweeney Todd, edited by Robert L. Mack. This is an abridged version of the original Sweeney Todd story. A String of Pearls, I believe it's called. Let me check just to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. Okay, well in this they just call it Sweeney Todd. So I know there was there was a String of Pearls, which was the original serial, and then there was like the book version. I don't know if this is an edited version of the original serial or the book version, because I know shit was different between versions a lot. But this is basically an edited version of that. It's made to tie in with the Tim Burton film based on the musical, of course, but this is the original story. And this is actually a reprint of the Oxford University Press edition, which I always really like their stuff. They always have lots of notes and lots of interesting asides and things to help explain stuff. And Sweeney Todd, the original Sweeney Todd, is something I've always wanted to read. I know this is an abridged version, but the original version is like over 1,000 pages, and it's in that double column text thing, and I just don't know if I'm ready for that. I'll read this and see if I like it, and if I really, really like it, then I will I will try to read the original version, but I do enjoy a good Penny Dreadful sometimes. I haven't read a ton of them, but it's something I've always wanted to get more into. So hopefully that's good. And then she also got me this at that bookstore in Lincoln. This is Animal Control, The Hero's Apprentice by Travis Howe. This is like sort of a animal superhero thing, sort of written for like sort of a middle grade or a younger audience. It was just a random find that she found this before at a store, and she looked it up and it sounded interesting, and she actually read it and she said it was a lot of fun. Like a kid's book, but entertaining. And for what I understand, yeah, Foster child Jack Roberts dreams of one day joining the hero league known as Animal Control, but his decision to run away ultimately leads to the death of the world's greatest hero. Now Jack lives a quiet life in a quiet town, believing his adventures are over. When a mysterious package arrives and a gang of murderous wolves come looking for it, Jack will find himself at the heart of Animal Control's most dangerous mission yet. So yeah, animal superheroes. You know, it's the author is apparently he's worked as an animator on stuff like Halo 5, Sly Cooper, and the 2014 Ninja Turtles movie. So that sounds interesting. He's also a local author. He lives in Roseville, which isn't far from where I live. So that was pretty cool. And also, one thing that I thought was really neat was that the chapter headings are all illustrated. So unfortunately, the full book isn't illustrated. That would be really cool, but I get it. It's a indie release, but yeah, I like the artwork. Furry bait, some might say, but it sounds fun, and Nakia liked it, so I'll check it out at some point. Oh, and this copy is actually signed as well. So, Travis, if you're out there, I don't know if you'll ever find this video, but I hope your book is good. My friend really liked it, so I look forward to it. All right, now I'm going to get into the books that I bought during the Book Den sale. This is another thing that they do every year, where at the Book Den, you're basically allowed to fill a bag full of books, and you could get the whole thing for $6. So I didn't come away with as much as I wanted, partially because it was really crowded, and Nakia was kind of having a little bit of an anxiety attack with all the people, and it was really crowded and hot. So we didn't spend as long there as we would have liked, but I still got a bag full of stuff. So yeah, let's just go through that. First, here we have The Peshawar Lancers by S.M. Stirling. S.M. Stirling, all I really know about him is he wrote as it says there, the Islander novels, and he wrote that one series of books that I can't remember the name of, but my aunt was really into them. The first book, I can't remember the name of the series, I'll put it up, but the first book was Dies the Fire. So I know that's sort of like a post-apocalyptic thing where all of the technology stops working or something like that. But this is like an alternate history novel. In the mid 1870s, a violent spray of comets hit Earth, decimating cities, erasing shorelines, and changing the world's climate forever. And just as Earth's temperature dropped, so was civilization frozen in time. Instead of advancing technologically, humanity had to piece itself back together. In the 21st century, boats still run on steam, messages arrive by telegraph, and the British Empire, with its capital now in Delhi, controls much of the world. The other major world leader is the Tsar of all the Russias. Everyone predicts an eventual deadly showdown, but no one can predict the role that one man, Captain Athelstane King, reluctant spy and hero, will play. So yeah, it sounds like a fun sort of adventure-y novel. I feel like it's going for sort of an old-fashioned sort of action story kind of vibe. I enjoy alternate history stuff. So yeah, sounds interesting. British Empire stuff. I don't know. We'll see. See, next I have The Chronicles of Galen Sword #1, Shifter by Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens. Again, I don't know much about this. A lot of these I don't know much about. I just grabbed them because they were at the sale and they looked interesting. This says, Galen Sword was known as a rich New York City playboy. The public didn't know that his Porsche contained state-of-the-art equipment designed to track down an extraordinary creature, or that Galen was actually on a dangerous quest to find another world. His world. Shadowy memories of being sent away from his beloved parents had given Galen an obsession, to get back to a parallel universe where he had been heir to a powerful dynasty, but had been born unaccountably and unacceptably human. To find his way home now, he had to capture a beast that crossed over from the world into the city's dark streets looking for prey. A werewolf. Alive, deadly, and very real, but trying to stop Galen was a race of brutal, magical beings armed with a power that was terrifying and perhaps unbeatable. So yeah, it's about shifters, I assume, and there's werewolves in it. It looks like it's got sort of like a cyberpunk-y kind of vibe. Like sort of a cyberpunk or like an elf punk, because it's more fantasy, I guess. More of an elf punk vibe. All I know about Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens is they've written tons of tie-in books for like Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff. I've heard they're pretty decent. I think they also worked a little bit on season 4 of Star Trek Enterprise, which was my favorite season. So that show wasn't very great, but that season was decent. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that is. It's got a shifter and a werewolf in it. So that's really all I needed to know. Next, I have The United States of Japan by Peter Tirius. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. This is one I've seen all around in recent years. It's been pretty popular. It's an Angry Robot release. They always do really sort of offbeat, interesting stuff. Again, it's an alternate history where Japan won the Second World War. Americans worship the emperor. Yeah, and nobody believes that Japan's conduct in the war was anything but exemplary. Nobody, that is, except the George Washingtons, a shadowy group of rebels fighting for freedom. Their latest subversive tactic is to distribute an illegal video game that asks players to imagine what the world might be like if the United States had won the war instead. Captain Beniko Ishimura's job is to censor video games, and he's tasked with getting to the bottom of this disturbing new development. But Ishimura is hiding something. He's slowly been discovering that the case of the George Washingtons is more complicated than it seems, and the subversive video game's origins are even more controversial and dangerous than the censors suspected. So yeah, as it says on the back here, part detective story, part brutal alternate history. United States of Japan is a stunning science fiction novel in the vein of Philip K. Dick's The Man in the High Castle, which is the same thought that I had when I first read the back. I was like, oh, it's like a video game version of The Man in the High Castle with like that book. What was it, The Grasshopper Wakes or whatever it's called. But it looks like it's very Japanese anime influenced. Sort of lot. I assume there's going to be lots of references to like Japanese culture and stuff, and video games and things, and mechs and all that stuff. So yeah, it looks interesting, and I got it in a bag for $6. So. Next, we have Once Upon a Winter's Night by Dennis L. McKiernan. I've seen this guy's stuff around a lot. I don't know much about him, but I know he writes sort of very, or at least these anyway. This is part of a series which is very like fairy tale influenced, and I read a little bit of the introduction here, and he talks about how much he loves fairy tales, how he grew up on them, and I'm always into sort of fairy tale inspired stuff. I think this guy wrote a series of books, the Mythgar novels, which I don't know much about. That seems to be his main claim to fame, but this sounded a little more interesting to me, more sort of, as I say, fairy tale, folklore influenced. It's about a poor crofter who trades his daughter to wed a prince in exchange for a lifetime of riches. The love blossoms between Camille and the prince. He is haunted by sadness and will not allow her to see his unmasked face. So she has to go to break whatever curse is on him. So, it's like shades of like Beauty and the Beast, a little bit of like Eros and Psyche, I love that sort of stuff, so I'm hoping that's good. And next we have a historical mystery novel, sort of a page-turner adventure thing. This is The French Executioner by C.C. Humphreys. It's 1536, and the expert swordsman Jean Rambaud has been brought over from France by Henry VIII to behead Anne Boleyn. But on the eve of her execution, Rambaud swears a vow to the ill-fated queen. He promises to bury her six-fingered hand, symbol of her rumored witchery, at a sacred crossroads. Yet, in a Europe ravaged by religious war, the hand of this infamous Protestant icon is so powerful a relic that many will kill for it. So yeah, it's like an adventure sort of travel story with a French executioner. I loved the that flat-tipped executioner sword on the front. Ever since I read the Shadow of the Torturer series, the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, I've always been fascinated with it. That was where I actually first learned what an executioner's sword was. I didn't know they had like special swords for executioners back then with the broad tips. And I was just fascinated by that, a sword just purely for executions. And I've always been fascinated with like executioner characters, like people whose entire job it is to go out and kill people for the state, From what I understand, like historically, it's always sort of been seen as like a cruel but necessary job, executioners are sort of seen as like social pariahs, and yet the state kind of relies on them, to execute their criminals and such. So it's that sort of like beyond the pale sort of thing that I've always been fascinated with, and I assume this goes into some of that. I don't know a whole lot about Henry VIII or Anne Boleyn or any of that, aside from the basics, so I don't know if I'll catch all the little historical details, but I'm here for executioner stuff, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, we have another Angry Robot book here. This is The Iron Wolves by Andy Remick. Again, really don't know much about this. But it just says, 30 years ago, the Iron Wolves held back mud orc hordes at the Pass of Splintered Bones and led a brutal charge that saw the sorcerer Morkagoth slain. Now a new terror stalks the realm. Orlana the Changer has escaped from the Chaos Halls and is building an army, twisting horses, lions, and bears into terrible, bloody hunters, summoning mud orcs from the slime and heading north to battle the mighty region of Vagandrak, where, it's said, the king has gone insane. So, like sort of getting the band back together, getting all these old heroes back together to go up against this great evil. All that talk about mud orcs and someone, and the Changer who's like twisting, animals into sort of flesh golems, it sounds like, it sounds really crazy. Shades of like what is that? Drust the Legend stuff, and that kind of thing. And it mentions on the back here, it mentions how a good handful of Howard's style, so sort of Robert E. Howard influence. And at the end of the day, it's a story, I assume, about a bunch of big boys going to go fight, and I'm very into that. Big muscular swordsmen and axe wielders and that type of shit. So we'll see. Next, I have some old sci-fi. This is kind of my mainstay, vintage sci-fi. This is Before the Universe by Frederick Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. This is a collection of short stories that were written by these two. Very, very influential authors. C.M. Kornbluth is one of the premier sci-fi short story authors of sort of the mid-20th century, and a lot of his greatest moments came in collaboration with Frederick Pohl. I read their book, The Space Merchants, a couple years ago, and I really, really liked it. It was a fun sort of bit of a sci-fi satire. So every time I see anything with both of their names on it, I try to grab it up. And this is a collection of short stories, which I didn't know they did together. And I guess it has a lot to do with like Mars and stuff. Yeah, the best of the early work of science fiction's most famous team of collaborators, including 4 stories never before in book form. So I'm here for that. Next, we have another short story collection here. This is Swordplay, edited by Denise Little. It's literally just a collection of stories about swords, and obviously, as I mentioned in my thing about the French Executioner, I love swords. I love swordplay. That's all I really needed to know. And this doesn't have a ton of authors that I've heard of or that I've read. I've heard of a few of them, like Christine Catherine Rush, Nina Kariki Hoffman, Laura Resnick. So a few people, but for the most part, it's people that I'm unfamiliar with. But I like swords. I like short story collections. And I read a little bit of the introduction, and I really like it. I'll just read it to you, the first paragraph to you. This anthology owes its life to Errol Flynn, and Antonio Banderas, and Viggo Mortensen, Sean Bean, the various sword fighters in The Princess Bride, even a Bond girl or two. All gorgeous people, all made ever so much more intriguing when somebody puts a sword in their hand and turns them loose to wreak havoc. I defy any person to watch a sword fight and not feel a thrill in their heart. Swordplay. Yum. Oh, I agree with that. I'm here for it. Let's see how it goes. All right, next we have Tea with the Black Dragon by R.A. McAvoy, some vintage fantasy, although at the time this was contemporary. When was this originally published? The 80s, I believe. Yeah, 1983. And I believe, I grabbed this because I believe I've heard of it because I believe it won a bunch of awards. And yeah, the back doesn't really tell you anything about it. It's just a bunch of accolades. So I've heard a little bit about it. I know it has something to do with a dragon. Yeah, the tale of a woman named Martha McNamara, brought west to San Francisco by her daughter's disappearance, and of the man who changed her life, a mysterious Asian gentleman named Mayland Long, who risked his ancient magic powers for her in a battle against modern-day computer wizardry. It is an elegantly crafted contemporary fantasy by a remarkable new writer. So yeah, it might be one of those things where it's like, maybe it doesn't hold up to the hype. I know some people have gone back to some of these older, like Hugo Award winners and such, and found them wanting, but I'm curious, and it's about dragons, and I like the cover. We'll see. Next we have Divinity 36 by Gail Carriger. This is part of the Tinkered Star Song. This is book 1. Gail Carriger is mostly known for her Parasol Protectorate series, which I've heard is pretty good. She also writes Male Romance under G.L. Carriger, I believe. But it says, Fex is a barista on a forgotten moon, which is fine. He likes being ignored and he's good at making drinks, until one day an alien hears him singing and recruits him to become a god. Now, Fex is thrust headfirst into the galaxy's most cutthroat entertainment industry, where music is visible, the price of fame can kill, and the only friends he has want to be worshipped. Welcome to the Divinity, where there is no difference between celebrity and religion, love and belief, acolyte and alien, where the right kind of obsession can drive a person crazy or turn them divine. So yeah, sounds weird and interesting. I love stuff about like aliens capturing people and sort of science fiction entertainment events and that sort of deal. And as I say, I think there's a lot of queer elements and characters in here. I was skimming some of the opening and it sounded pretty queer, which I'm always here for. In fact, actually, there's a warning at the beginning of this that made me laugh. Warning, this work may contain implied contact of a romantic and carnal nature between members of the same sex, opposite sex, sexless aliens, or more. If love in its many forms, and love's consequences in even more varied forms, are likely to offend, please do not read this book. Miss Carriger has the tame young adult finishing school series that may be more to your taste. Thank you for your understanding, self-awareness, and self-control. So yeah, I'm here for it. I hope that's good. Then we have The Beasts of Tabat by Cat Rambo. This is as it says there, Cat Rambo is a Nebula and World Fantasy Award nominee. This is one of their early novels. I actually don't know how they go by. Okay, she, her. Okay, so yeah, I've seen a lot about Cat Rambo recently. That's actually what interested me about this, is that this looked like a very early sort of almost either self-published or a small press thing. But Cat Rambo's become like a big author recently. She did that what was it called? Hang on, let me look that up. So sorry, I just looked it up. On the back, in the back here, it says she, her, but I looked it up and they use they, them pronouns, so I apologize. But I guess this was before they came out as non-binary. But yeah, so they wrote that recent series, the Disco Space Opera, which is a You Sexy Thing, is the first one. And I guess this was their claim to fame, Beasts of Tabat from 2015. So I've seen their stuff around a lot, and this sounded interesting. When country boy Teo arrives in the coastal city of Tabat, he finds it a hostile place, particularly to a boy hiding an enormous secret. It's also a city in turmoil thanks to an ancient accord to change governments and the rising demands of beasts, the unicorns, dryads, minotaurs, and other magical creatures on whose labor and bodies Tabat depends. And worst of all, it's a city dedicated to killing shifters, the race whose blood Teo bears. So really, it's about shifters and beasts, minotaurs, magical creatures, that type of thing. That's really all I needed to know. And as I say, I've heard a lot about Cat Rambo. I was actually getting them confused with Django Wexler, who has a blurb on the back there. But yeah, Django Wexler also has gotten really big recently. They wrote what is it that how to become the Dark Lord or whatever. My friend Laura has been reading that and really enjoying it. So yeah, it's interesting when you find these like early, this early output from authors who have gone on to become pretty big successes. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. Curious about it. We'll see. And finally, for this book den haul, I have Never Cross a Vampire by Stuart Kaminsky. This is a murder mystery sort of detective book that's part of a series about this guy. What's his name? P.I. Toby Peters. And I think all of his books take place in like World War II, like Hollywood and stuff like that. And this actually involves him taking on a case from Boris Karloff, who asks him to protect Bela Lugosi because Bela's been receiving mysterious, threatening letters from people who are obsessed with vampires, and like they kind of like almost like worship him as like a god in a way. And it just sounds really weird and fun and interesting. I love stuff about old Hollywood, and like dealing with like old horror movie actors and that type of thing. And I read a little bit of the opening, and it has that sort of very sardonic, like hard-boiled writing style that I always enjoy. So who knows? I might read this one sooner rather than later. We'll see. This is actually a reprint. The original book was from the 80s, I believe. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, the original book was from 1980, but this reprint is from 2000. So I guess he sort of had a resurgence recently. I've never heard of him, but I love this sort of stuff, so we'll see if that's any good. And now we'll go through the stuff that I got at half price for the 20% off sale. First off, we have one of the Dre Prescott books. I had another one of these because it had werewolves in it, and I bought this one just because I saw the cover, and I don't know if you can see that. This is A Fortune for Cregan, and it's got a guy fighting a dinosaur with a sword. Really, as soon as I saw that was all I needed to know. It says, fame and fortune may await the winners of the life and death game called Jakaida, but for Dre Prescott, his triumph seemed only to bring infamy and misfortune. An Earthman transported to the distant world that circles the twin suns of Antares, Prescott had to find a way out of his Jakaida City exile, for his homeland needed him in its hour of danger. But it seemed that fate now would place him in an even more terrifying game, a treasure hunt played out in the illusion-webbed catacombs of a haunted valley where desperate men came to find fortunes at the risk of their followers' lives and their own sanity. So yeah, these sound fun. They're very short, DAW paperbacks, very rarely over 200 pages. Honestly, I was just sold by that cover art. That was all I needed to know. I hope it's as fun as that cover. And next we have this trilogy of Spider-Man books. It's not really a trilogy, but these were just 3 Spider-Man books that Laura found and pointed out to me, and I've been wanting to read some Spider-Man books, so she made me spend money on them. It was her fault. But we have Carnage in New York, by David Micheline and Dean Wesley Smith. And then we have Venom's Wrath by Keith R.A. DiCandido and Jose R. Nieto. Love those covers. And then we have Goblin's Revenge, also by Dean Wesley Smith. I think this one is a sequel to another book, or it ties into a different series of books, but I don't know to what extent. But I've been enjoying reading these tie-in novels lately. Tie-ins and novelizations and that type of thing. And I love Spider-Man. I've read a few things from Keith R.A. DiCandido, and I like him. And some of these actually are, the chapter headings and stuff are illustrated, and that's really cool. So yeah, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. I'm here for these books about him, and they're probably pretty, simple, easy reads, so I kind of need that right now with this slump I've been in. Next, we have The Baker's Boy by J.V. Jones. This is the first book in the Book of Words series. I believe this is a trilogy, if I understand right. Yeah, the Book of Words trilogy. Second one is A Man Betrayed, and the third one is Master and Fool. This is just one of those big sort of fantasy door stoppers I've seen around a lot. I think I was just intrigued by the title, The Baker's Boy, sort of classic hero's journey type stuff. At vast Castle Harvel, where King Lesketh lies dying, two fates collide. In her regal suite, young Meliandra, the daughter of an influential lord, rebels against her forced betrothal to the sinister Prince Kyloch. In the kitchens, an apprentice named Jack is terrified by his sudden, uncontrolled power to work miracles. Together they flee the castle, stalked by a sorcerer who has connived for decades to control the crown, even committing supernatural murder to advance his schemes. And a young knight begins a quest, leaving behind his home and family to seek out the treacherous Isle of Larn, where lies a clue to his desperate search for the truth. Here a wondrous epic of darkness and beauty begins. But to be honest, it sounds a little bit generic to me. Doesn't really sound very different from a lot of other sort of hero's journey fantasy books I've read, but the title intrigues me, and as I say, it's one of those ones I've seen everywhere. Every bookstore I've ever been to seems to have a copy of at least one of these books. So, whatever. I'll give it a try. See if it's any good. If it's not, oh well. We have another collection of short stories here. This is Shadow Show, all new stories in celebration of Ray Bradbury, edited by Sam Weller and Mort Castle. Really, I mean, it's there in the title. I love Ray Bradbury. I love short story collections. I love Ray Bradbury-inspired short story collections. And this has a lot of authors that I really love. Margaret Atwood, Harlan Ellison, Neil Gaiman, Joe Hill, Kelly Link, Robert McCammon. A lot of heavy hitters here. So I love Bradbury. I love short story collections. That's all I really need to know. We'll see if they're any good. I don't know, but that's the whole point with these. They're kind of a gamble, right? And next I have Fence, Striking Distance by Sarah Reese Brennan. This is based off of the graphic novel series by C.S. Packet. I don't know how you pronounce her name. But she's the Australian author who wrote the Captive Prince trilogy, which I read ages ago and I really, really liked. One of the first male series books that I really got into. And this is about, a fencing academy. And like with all of C.S. Packett's stuff, it's very gay. This is more YA, so it's not really smut or anything. But it's a fencing team at an exclusive boarding school, and it just follows these, four different guys and their sort of romantic entanglements, I assume. And one of the cool things about this is, because it's based on a graphic novel, each chapter is narrated by a different character, and they all have these little illustrations to go along with it to kind of show you sort of who the narrator is. So there's that guy Aiden, there's Harvard, there's Nicholas. And there's Seiji. So, lots of cuties, cute gay boys at a fencing school, What else do you need to know? I've never read the graphic novel series, so I don't know, how this is connected to it. I don't know if these are characters that, if these are, side characters that she, expanded on or what. But gay boys at a fencing school, And now we have, Don't Laugh. This is Our Hearts Were Young and Gay by Cornelia Otis Skinner and Emily Kimbrough. This is just something I found randomly on the shelf at half price. It was like a collectible books or something like that. They always have these old vintage hardcovers on a shelf, and I was kind of just reading about it, and so this is basically about these two authors, Cornelia Otis Skinner and Emily Kimbrough. They were like socialites and like actresses and stuff, and they basically went on all this like sort of partying jag in the 1920s. And this book is sort of a telling of their adventures and kind of what they got up to and stuff. This is actually adapted into a movie in the 40s, which I haven't seen, and I don't know how faithful it is to the book. But I enjoy stuff like that about sort of like socialites and partying and stuff like that. Very sort of light and frothy, I assume. But I enjoy that sort of stuff here and there, and I assume there's lots of like cattiness and put downs and bon mots and stuff. It just, I don't know, it just sounds very old fashioned and fun and globe trotting. And this actually also has illustrations, if I can find one. And I just love a good illustrated book. So yeah, and it was $5. It's a little beat up. This dust jacket's kind of falling apart, but it's an old book. But yeah, hopefully it's good. And then finally, I was really excited to find this. This is a big box set that I got at price. Oof, heavy. This is the Mary Downing Hahn box set. 8 books. And this also comes with a bookmark, apparently. And it's all shrink wrapped and stuff, so I figure I'll just open it here on camera. 2 of these I've read already, but I love Mary Downing Hahn, and yeah, we'll just get into this. We'll just unbox this here. Let's get these out. Haven't found that bookmark yet, but I assume it's here somewhere. Let's go through these. So again, I've only read 2 of these. The rest of them I don't know much about, but we'll just go through them. So this is The Girl in the Locked Room, a ghost story. Most of Mary Downing Hahn's stuff is ghost stories. She tends to write ghost stories for children, which I really, really like. So yeah, this is, I mean, the title kind of says it all. I've heard a lot of kids talking about this one on TikTok. I guess she's kind of blown up again recently because she's been publishing since the 70s and 80s, I believe. But these are all reprints that have really, she's really like caught on again. Kids love horror. I wish we would talk more about that. Kids love horror, and we should encourage that. And then we have Wait Till Helen Comes. I read this one. This one was really, really good, really spooky, sort of a modern M.R. James type story about a girl and her younger sister, and her sister keeps talking about her sister starts acting out and being a brat when they move to this new house with a cemetery outside of it, and she keeps saying "Wait till Helen comes," and creepy things happen. So I recommend that. That was a really, really enjoyable read. The Old Willis Place. Don't know much about this one. The decaying mansion is known as the Old Willis Place, even though no one named Willis has lived there for years. Diana and her little brother Georgie know every inch of its extensive grounds. They climb the trees and swim in the pond, and they can do whatever they want, even stay up all night. They don't have to change their clothes, brush their hair, or go to school. They have total freedom, as long as they don't leave the Old Willis Place. When Lissa arrives with her father, the new caretaker of the estate, Diana is overjoyed. She's been wishing for a friend who's a girl. Maybe Lissa can help her uncover the ghastly secret of the Old Willis Place. But she and Georgie aren't allowed to make friends, and if Diana befriends Lissa, she will unleash evil forces beyond her control. I'm betting they're both ghosts, but, haunted house shit, I'm here for it. I have no idea. I enjoy her stuff, so that's really all that matters to me. You have The Ghosts of Crutchfield Hall. No matter what's in store for Florence at Crutchfield Hall, she's sure it will be better than the grim London orphanage she's lived in since her parents' death. The house is cavernous and gloomy, room after room connected by dimly lit hallways, but it's comfortable, even luxurious. Great Uncle Thomas is welcoming, and Florence is eager to meet mysterious Cousin James. She isn't prepared to find another presence inhabiting Crutchfield Hall, though, the vengeful ghost of Cousin Sophia, who died the year before. Sophia believes she will be restored to life if someone else dies, and she's forcing Florence to help her make that happen. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool, pretty creepy, classic, sort of British gothic horror type stuff. I'm always here for that, Sounds really cool. And these are all really short. Very few of them go over 200 pages, so they're very quick, creepy reads for kids. So I really like them. Need to read more of them. Next we have The Doll in the Garden. I'll bet you'll love this one, Nakia. Ashley can't get comfortable in her family's new apartment. Sometimes she hears a child crying, though no one is near, and everything she does, especially going into the garden or playing with a mysterious white cat, upsets the irritable landlady. The discovery of an old doll buried in the Forbidden Garden starts Ashley on a quest to find out who it belonged to and why it was buried. The landlady claims the doll is hers, but an eerie encounter makes it clear that the landlady lied, and the doll's rightful owner wants it back, even though she died 70. Yeah, again, classic M.R. James stuff, discovering an old artifact that leads to a haunting. I'm always here for that. This one's pretty short. This one doesn't even crack 130 pages, it looks like. So, yeah, these are very quick reads. I should probably read some of these soon. Here's another one of the two that I've read from this collection. This is Deep and Dark and Dangerous. This one was really, really good. So this is about a girl spending a summer at a lake house with her aunt and the aunt's daughter. And the daughter's like a little weird, and the mom seems like weird about like having her there. And there's like intimations that something bad happened many years ago. There's they live on this like lake house. It's like looking out on this big lake, and and there's this like mysterious ghost that seems to be haunting them. That's coming from the lake, and she has to discover the secret of the lake. And what about it is so deep and dark and dangerous. I really enjoyed that one. This one was a lot of fun, and this one went to some pretty dark places that I was really surprised by. So yeah, recommend that. Oh, there's the bookmark. There you go. Pretty cool. Definitely gonna hang on to that. Next we have Closed for the Season. This one looks like it involves a circus. No one knows who killed Mrs. Donaldson or where she hid her fortune. When Logan and his family move into her old house, Logan is dragged into trying to solve the mystery by his new friend, Arthur. The pursuit of clues leads them straight into trouble and ultimately to a derelict and creepy amusement park. But little do the boys suspect that the closer they get to the truth, the more danger they're in. Well, this one says it's just a thriller. It's not a ghost story. She doesn't always write ghost stories, but this is interesting because I haven't read any of her thriller books. But yeah, abandoned fucking amusement park carnival type thing. I am here for that. That's one of my favorite tropes, so we'll see what that's like. And then finally, we have All the Lovely Bad Ones. I love that cover. Travis and his sister Corey are thrilled to be spending the summer at their grandmother's remote Vermont inn. The inn at Fox Hill has a history of ghost sightings. What could be more exciting than seeing a ghost? But no ghosts have appeared recently. Ghost hunting guests are few and far between, and the inn is in trouble. So Travis and Corey decide to do a little haunting of their own. Rapping and tapping and silent figures veiled in white are right up their alley. New ghost sightings will bring customers to the inn and help their grandmother stay in business, and they'll have fun fooling people at the same time. They have no idea that their fake ghosts will awaken something real, something dangerous, something tied to the horrific secret past of the inn at Fox Hill. That's something else I also love. I enjoy, people messing with forces beyond their control or understanding and awakening something dark and deep and dangerous. So yeah, those are all of the Mary Downing Hahn books. Really excited to dig into more of these. As I said, I've read 2 of these already, and I have a few more of her books just lying around. But I really like her stuff, and I want to read more of it. And they're very short, quick, simple, easy reads. Just classic children's ghost story stuff, which I'm always here for, so very excited to dig into those. And that was everything I got on this massive haul. Hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know when I'll be back. Uploads have always been sporadic with my channel, but especially recently. I apologize for that. But I hope you guys enjoy whenever I'm able to get something out. As difficult as it's been to get back into reading, I still love books. I love being around books. I love talking about books. So it's just, that's what I'm here for. So please, if you've read any of these books, if you have any recommendations, where do you think I should start, anything, just talk to me. Leave a comment. I'll respond when I can. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.